Yes. Hey everyone, how are you guys? Hey.
Steven. There you go.
Hi, Korean friends. Hi, what's time? What's time in your place now?
Look.
Hi, Arab. After Prince.
I'm from Saudi Arabia. Right there.
Yeah, how about our video and audio? Hi.
Another familiar face.
Tina and Jason, old friend. How's everything going now? It's August now, yeah. Near the end of the summer. We saw one familiar face again. Jala, wow. Hello from China. Hi, Martin. Oh, will you guys start shooting the CR6 SE without ad once today? Yeah. Please check in our official site, reality.com, and we update the information on kickstart.com too.
The shipping list, right?
Yeah, the shipping list.
Those numbers. Yeah.
Hello, Italy. Hello, hi everyone. I got the answer 6 months. I need to print. I need to get me a CF10 luxury printing. Yeah, I'm from the Netherlands. What are the wheel checks today? We can't wait to see it too. Hello.
Seems like we already got a lot of audience in the room.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started.
What's today's topic, Tina? You want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
We invite one active members in our visual user group, and his name is
Chris.
Yeah.
So basically, what he have done, he is a pretty dedicated industry user. He has, as far as I knew, he posts a lot. Actually, he shared a lot of his own printing stories, the prints, success, or even failures in our user group. So that's why we invited him to join our live show.
Yeah. By the way, We have giveaways in our official user group, and let me share the screen to you guys. So invite one friend in our official user group, and we will randomly choose one member to get the prize, a printer.
A prize printer. Wow.
Yes, that's super big prize, super big gifts.
Do we know which printer is it yet?
Yeah, Sheraton V2.
Okay, that's nice.
Okay, so let's warmly welcome him, Chris.
Let's welcome Chris. There you go.
Hey
How
guys.
you doing, Chris?
No
We're
bad
doing
yourself.
great.
Yeah, all
We're doing
good.
great. We're doing great. So yeah, we already got a lot of audience in the room, and we talk about like how you share your own printing stories and experience in the group. You've been really dedicated and active users of us. So yeah, what we gonna talk about today? Because the title was the weird tricks.
Yeah.
So what's the weird stuff you have done?
So I think probably today I'm going to talk about bed leveling.
Sure.
I've got a bit of a weird way that I level my bed, but it seems to work very well. And as of yet, I've not had a single print come off the bed.
Okay.
And I think a few people, we started a bit of a will it print Friday of trying to print ridiculous things without support to see if we can get them to print. The Darth Vader one was the most recent one, which proved quite popular. So I'm going to talk everyone through how I level my bed and how I get perfect bed adhesion first time.
That sounds really good stuff. How about we save that later? Let's start with like how you got into the 3D printing.
Yeah.
Like what's the first print you had? What's like failures you ever had, and how you overcome those failures?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that first. Yeah.
In the sense of getting into it, my background is engineering. I work for a telecoms company as project management, which is complete opposite end of the spectrum. But I've got an engineering background, so I have a degree in electronical engineering. I worked on large CNC CAD and CAM machines, and experienced my first 3D printer probably about 12 years ago.
12 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was built by a college that I was attending at the time. I mean, the thing was the size of a small bedroom, and it took hours to print anything, and the quality was terrible. But it was sort of a concept theory, and it's kind of taken off from there. So my first ever printer was an Anycubic Mega i3S, and I pretty much managed to dissolve that within the first month. I actually set it on fire. I tried to mess around with the electronical boards and got one of the cables the wrong way around and set the whole thing on fire. That's probably my biggest failure. And then I moved on to the Creality series. I like the customization of the Creality series. I like the fact that the support's brilliant, and there's a lot of STLs online if you ever want to make any adjustments to your printer, even if you've got no design technology behind it. And that's sort of how I got into it. And then success stories is quite recently. I started a charity, and we have been printing a PPE kit for NHS workers in the UK. And we also we actually invented something which I can show you. Just quickly grab one. So in the UK, we've got a big problem with our health services getting dehydration, because on the wards that they work on, they're wearing a full protective kit and they're not allowed to have drinks of water. And for the short breaks that they do get, they don't have time to strip off, and it's a health hazard to try and get a drink. So my charity invented these, it's a contactless bottle opener. So the whole idea is you can put it on a bottle, take the lid off without touching the bottle, have a drink, put the lid back on, and that was it. And we've distributed about 5,000 of these now. Wow. And about 15,000 other parts of PPE kit, whether it be face masks or the little strap holders for the mask that Zoo's wearing, just so it doesn't hurt your ears. And that's what we've kind of been doing.
Wow.
That's pretty nice of you. I mean, that's not pretty hard.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, we ran out. I personally have funded most of it myself, and I ran out of money. But we put something on GoFundMe, and it got quite a lot of backing. So I have a lovely stack of filaments behind us, in front of us, which is being paid for by the charity, which is used for printing PPE, and it's been really good. Support's been fantastic, and a lot of people as well. A lot of people help with this from that Creality user group. So people have helped with revisions, design tips, printing tips. It's been brilliant.
Got it.
That's really
All right,
nice.
and you mentioned that probably your biggest and your first major failure was you set it on fire.
Yeah.
I remember mine probably. Actually, my first print it went well, pretty good. Like my first print, I print a Gundam, so
Oh,
it's
nice.
like a giant robot stuff. So I when I choose the G code, this SDR file, I choose the one with all different pieces, so it's not like all in one piece. If you print it out like separately, it's probably much easier to get a successful result.
Yeah.
So basically, with that way, my first print actually it went well, pretty good. Actually, what's the biggest success I mean, when you just got started, what's the biggest success of prints you ever had? You still remember that?
Yes, probably it was again. I started to sort of get when you spend all day and your printer's running non-stop, 24 hours a day. I mean, I've got 2 printers in total, and they're running non-stop. Generally printing PPE stuff. It's nice every now and again just to print something random.
Right.
And I printed a huge Deadpool bust, which it's also been on the group. It was quite popular, and that took up almost the full size of the Ender 3. So it went from about there up to about there. It took 48 hours, which was the longest print I've ever printed, and it came out amazing.
Nice. And when you're looking at the perfect print, have you ever thought because what I did when I looked at it, it's perfect. So I was thinking which part did I do it right? Is that something can be copied when I do a print next time? So have you learned anything from the perfect print ever done? Is that how you print? How you improve your printing skills?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, probably the most important part of improving your printing skills is learning your printer. I think a lot of people put a lot of dependencies on software, and your slicing software can only do so much for you. And one of the fantastic sort of resources that we have in Creality is we have Luke Hatfield. And Luke Hatfield has wrote the most amazing guide on how to disassemble and reassemble your printer and do it properly. And the improvement that makes on your prints is just next to none. You can spend months in the slicer, but if you don't understand how to build your printer properly, you'll never get good results. So for me, it was fine tuning the Ender 3 in the background. I spent a long time making sure every bolt was the correct tension, every runner was the correct tension, that the X gantry was the correct level. And I've got ADHD, so I'm a little bit OCD with certain things. So that X gantry there is, I think it's 10 microns level. So from that side to that side, which it's pretty over the top. You don't need it that level, but that's what improves your print quality, to be honest with you.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we already have an audience asking most of which. So yeah, let's get started to that part. So yeah, tell us about your weird tricks.
Yeah, sure. So I know a few people have mentioned it. It is weird, not wired. But yeah, in the sense of my weird trick for bed leveling. So when I first got into 3D printing, I had a lot of problems with bed leveling. Followed hundreds of guides online, tried using the paper trick, and I just couldn't get away with it. I know the paper trick probably works brilliantly for glass beds, but when you've got a textured bed like that, it's not flat, it has indentations like this, which means trying to get a level is really hard. So I've kind of came up with my own way of doing it now. So most Enders, if you're on the updated firmware, will have bed leveling and then bed level corners where the machine will automatically move to each corner. So what I like to do is I'll either put the torch on my phone or even just the home screen like that. So I've got a little bit of light, hold it behind the bed, and then I will lower each corner so the nozzle just touches the bed and turn it off half a turn. I'll do that for each of the corners, and then I'll home it and do the center. Once I've got that done, I then do what's known as active leveling, which means that I'll make any fine adjustments during a print. So one really good way I found that is if you're a Cura user, you can pick any model, doesn't make a difference, and shrink it down till it's just a dot. And then if you go into your settings for bed adhesion, go to skirt, set the distance to 10 millimeter and from the print, and then the length is however big you want it, and you'll get a big circle of skirt, and you can also click it and move it around the bed. So I've got 5 files which are now permanently saved on my SD card, which has that skirt in the top left, the top right, the top bottom left, bottom right, and in the middle. And then I'll just simply press print, and as it's going around, I'll wind the knob off just till it gets to the point where I can just start to see the gaps in between the layer lines, and then I'll tighten it back down just a touch till that gap goes. And I've found for me that is perfect level. And then there's also, I think, a few people, if anyone follows Chep on YouTube, he has some fantastic STLs which are called print squares, which are just a 1-layer square. Yeah. And if you stick one of them in the middle of the bed, make it a bit bigger and print, and then that also checks as well, just for your fine tuning. So if you get any ripples on the top, it means you're too close to the bed. If you've got any gaps in between the lines, it means you're too far. But the best advice I can give anyone is do active leveling, level the bed as you're printing. But my weird trick is I use light to level my bed rather than paper.
That's good advice. I mean, I was thinking about doing it, but I was kind of worried the printer, the nozzle is gonna move too fast. If I haven't, I'm just so afraid I don't have enough time to do bed leveling. And actually, it does not move that fast as I thought. So yeah.
Well, that's why I mean, I basically have sacrificial prints. So I've just taken any file, doesn't make a difference. I've shrank it down to a dot, and then I've put a massive skirt on it. So really, the dot is just a dot of filament, but it's the skirt. And when in Cura, the generic speed settings for skirts is 20 millimeters a second, unless you've gone and specifically changed them, which is slow enough to allow you to make any adjustments as you're going along. But that's that by far, as long as you've got a flat bed, that is, I've found the perfect way. I have a BL Touch set up on now, but I don't actually use that for automatic bed leveling. I found that the BL Touch decreases quality in prints. So I only use that as the Z end stop. I still use manual bed leveling. And even if my bed's way off, I can get printer turned on, get the 4 corners done, and be printing in 3 minutes with a perfect bed level adhesion. I think with paper, the problem is everyone's sensitivity is different. What feels like a gentle pull to me would feel like a strong. Exactly. I mean, I'm 6'7". I've got huge hands. I'm a big bloke. So a little pull to me could be a really strong pull to somebody else. Exactly. And you can't explain that in words. But to simply say, turn the nozzle till the light disappears and then turn it back half a turn, there you go, works perfect.
Yeah.
That's a smart way to do it. I mean, exactly. I mean, I tried using the way of using the paper, and they keep telling me when you feel like the nozzle is scratching the surface of paper, it's too tight or whatever. Like exactly, you got a point. Like everybody feels it with a different way. So
plus, as well, not everyone has the same paper. Your paper could be 110, exactly. Mine could be 170. There's too many variations. I've never been a fan of the paper technique. But when I started doing it that way, that's when sort of my success stories in 3D printing start to really happen.
Got it.
And what print you use to print the dinosaur head?
Dinosaur head, yeah. Oh, you mean this one? Sorry,
sorry.
Like we were thinking about like probably. Have you ever? Because we were thinking like I don't remember Chris ever posted anything like that. Yeah, this one. All right. Actually, do we know? Probably just regular. It's probably.
I'm sorry.
It's probably either the it's 2 parts. It's probably either the NS3 or NS3 Pro updated. So yeah, it's pretty vivid. I know. So yeah, that's back to topic. So you mentioned you already have some like G-code files. So basically, what are you gonna do? Like each time before you start print, you're gonna just run some random files first to see if the bed leveling is good enough, right?
No, to be honest with you, I only use those files if the bed leveling's off. Every single print that I do has a skirt at least 10mm away from the print, and if there's any minor adjustments, I can do those adjustments as I've started a print. So, for example, that one that's behind us, I don't know whether you can see, but there's a skirt that goes around the outside of that. In fact, I'll take you a bit closer. So there. And I literally just use that to adjust the level as the print starts. And that's literally all I do. I only ever need to use the files if the bed level's way off.
So I wonder, like, how often do you need to adjust the leveling? Is it depends on the machine or?
It does. I mean, different printers are different. The Anycubic I had was pretty much you had to level it every single time on the print. The Ender 3, you can usually get away with about 5 to 10 prints, although I have replaced the bed strings with silicon blocks. I found them a little bit easier with my chunky hands. But generally speaking, I think one of the biggest problems that people have with messing up bed leveling is taking the print off the bed. If you have a removable surface, take the surface off the bed, because if you're yarking at that print, you're gonna pull that bread out of whack. And then again, when people are clean it, I see people who get isopropyl alcohol to clean their beds, and they're scrubbing like this, and all you're doing is you're knocking off your bed level. Either take the mat off if it's removable, or if it isn't, let it cool before you remove the print. And if you're going to clean it, if you're going to use isopropyl alcohol, you just need a light touch. You don't need to press down on the print surface. You do that, and I know people who don't level their print beds an entire month. So you look after it, it'll look after you.
Exactly. Like if you want to get a perfect print, like leveling your bed is going to be the very first major step.
Yeah.
The success. So,
yeah.
Okay, that's our first trick. How do you do the bed leveling? Anything else you want to mention?
And another good one as well, which I don't see many people utilize it, is baby steps. One of the reasons I bought the Ender is for the exact reason is that you use a pretty generic version of Marlin. Like if I reference that Anycubic printer, it used such a complicated version of Marlin that was exclusive to that printer. You practically couldn't make any modifications. The Ender 3 firmware is generic. It's brilliant. There's so much you can do with it. And even if on the latest update, there's David saying he's not leveled his for 2 months. Even with the stock firmware, as long as you're on the recent update, in your printer will be something called Baby Step Z. So if your bed is level, but your nozzle's too high, use the Baby Step Z to adjust the height of the nozzle as the print's going along. And that allows you to make fine-tune adjustments while you're printing. So if I start to know during my first layer, oh, actually, that's a little bit too high, I don't have to then go and turn knobs. I can just go to Baby Step Z and then reduce the Z height ever so slightly.
I saw some comments. Yeah. I have a magnetic bed, but can't get print to stick.
Do you have a trick for that?
Yes. So if you've got the same Creality PEI bed that I've got, the magnetic one, what tends to happen, it's not the bed's fault or anything like that, but because it's creviced like this, those crevices start to fill up with little parts of PLA that harden. And effectively, even if you clean it with isopropyl alcohol, that's not going to get those pieces of PLA or whatever filament you're using out of there. So a really good trick is simply remove your mat, put it on a flat surface, and use some 800 grit sandpaper. Give it a light scuff. You don't need to take the whole thing apart. Just a very light scratch, wipe down any dust, and it rejuvenates your bed. That printer, although that printer is only 6 months old, that printer has done. Well, it's only been turned off in 6 months for 2 days. So how many hours that is, that's printed non-stop for 6 months bar 2 days. So yeah, and that's all I do. Whenever I start to sort of lose the adhesion on my bed, it's generally because those crevices are filled with filament. So just take some sandpaper, give it a light scuff, and it's like having a brand new bed.
There we go. that's your the answer of how do you make sure the print stick to the bed.
Yes. And David said I have not leveled my industry for 2+ months. Yes.
So, I mean, one thing is, I think if the print stick to the bed like really strong, and you try to take it off, like you pushing it and you try to get it take it off, it's gonna cause another bad level, is it?
So this all comes down to the type of bed that you use. So for anyone who's got the magnetic mats, no, you just simply lift the mat up, flex the mat, the print will peel away. It doesn't make a difference how hard it's stuck. That's the whole purpose of a flex mat. If you've got a glass bed, that's when it becomes a little bit more difficult. So the glass beds are specifically designed, you have to let the print cool. You can't just simply rip it straight off the bed. So if the glass bed's removable, a really good trick is stick it in the freezer for 10 minutes. Nothing longer, because otherwise you'll freeze it. But if you stick it in the freezer 10 minutes, that cold contraction causes the glass to shrink, which will just literally pop the print straight off the bed.
Got it.
Wow.
And then if you're going to print PETG on a glass bed, you need to put a film on. That's another thing. I see a lot of people who end up damaging their glass beds with PETG. PETG has a tendency to thermal bond to the top layer of glass. So if you're going to use a glass bed, you need to put a coating on, whether it be hairspray, glue stick, or any of the professional bed coatings that people make. And then your PETG will stick to the coating rather than the glass bed, so it makes it easier to come off.
That's really useful tips.
So is the magnetic bed is your favorite?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
I tried one of the Wham Bam metal sheets, and don't get me wrong, they're brilliant, but because they're smooth, again, you have to coat the bed over and over again to get certain materials to stick. With that textured bed, because it's rough, it's not smooth. As long as you don't mind that surface finish on the bottom layer, I've not had a single print come off that. So that there has a metal hot end because I print exotics when I'm printing my engineering parts. So everything from ABS, PETG, carbon fiber. I've even printed engineering grade nylon, which needs temperatures of over 300 degrees.
300.
Yeah, and I've never had an issue with a print, not one in 6 months. And that's just the same thing. Always make sure your bed's level. Whatever technique's better for you, but personally, I like the light one. And just every now and again, when you start to lose adhesion, bit of sandpaper, take it off. And when that bed does go, they're cheap to replace. They're like 20 quid on Amazon. So if it does get the point where it's ruined, it's £20 to replace. You can't really go wrong with that.
Okay. Let's check some
comments
here.
Yeah.
See
So
what
do a
people are talking
3D
about.
print
Do a
heads.
3D printing head.
Oh, and John says, we'll try that, thanks. I use 001 wool to clean my sheets.
Yeah, same kind of idea. So that's it's like steel wool. It's abrasive, so it's the same kind of idea. It scuffs the top of the bed. It's called keying, and it gives it a key, so something for the filament to bite to. And then for the freezer one, Jonathan, yes, that would also work with ice cubes. And I have a few friends of mine who use freeze spray. So what doctors would use when they're going to numb you, it's about £3-4 from Amazon, and they just spray that on the bed and it freezes the top layer as well.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Brian. Hi, Tina, Jason, Credit.
Brian.
Hi, Christian.
Hi, yeah.
Have you used the Visual Studio?
Yes. Yes.
Yet?
So this printer here, this is the engineering one. So I have one in another room, which is my personal printer, and this is the one which is used for more engineering parts. So this has an upgraded SKR 32-bit board, and a custom version of Marlin that I've built myself. Your best option for that one, John, again, is YouTube. Although I have an engineering background, I don't have any background in coding, and I was able to comfortably program firmware in under a month easily, just with a couple of hours of YouTube here and there. It's pretty easy to learn. And one of the best things about VS Code is it won't let you compile the firmware if there's an error. So if there's something wrong, it won't actually compile it, and it'll tell you what's wrong as well. So you can't really go too far wrong. As long as you don't mess around with your VREFs, that's when you can break something. Everything else is just, if it's wrong, it just won't print, and you can tweak it again.
Thank you and good morning. Hi. And some people may not have a large freezer. Why not on a bed of ice cubes for the glass bed? Just an idea.
A bed of ice cubes. Well, well, that I mean, if you don't have a freezer, how come you can get ice cubes? I just not getting this.
I think he means if you haven't got a freezer big enough to put the plate inside.
Yeah.
So yes, you could just rub some ice cubes on it.
On the bed.
You could use freeze spray. There's other things that you could use. You can just run it underwater actually as well. Cold water can also help.
Water? Yeah. Hello, Tina. Jason, what are you? Yeah. Oh, Grace. I don't own a 3D printer yet. Would you recommend the End3 too?
Yes, to be honest with you, I will openly I'm quite a vocal person, and I like the whinge. So if something has a problem, I'm the first person to voice it. And I will honestly say, for the Creality printers so far, they've generally been fantastic. I'm not getting paid to be here. I'm not anything like that. This is at my own personal choice, and I will openly admit, by far some of the best printers I've ever used. Brilliant.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, I have 2 problems. Any advice?
To Arduino.h. Apologies, John. I don't use an Arduino board. I use an SKR Mini. But by all means, if you're on the Creality user group, drop us a message with some print screens, and I can have a look for you and see if I can walk you through anything.
Nice.
Oh. Hi. Hi, Sam. Hi, friends. Yeah. So far, that's all.
That's all the comments we have so far. So yeah, anything else you want to talk about? Like, do you want to talk about the post, the picture you posted in the group?
What
how to say that?
Darth Vader.
Yeah, there we go. The I think it's like Genie Warrior, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that one has basically no support, not I can tell, and it's a still good print.
Yeah.
Have you used any of the trick you mentioned
before? Show us.
Again, so it was just bed adhesion. So that was the Darth Vader print. It's like 40% infill, so this is heavy, really heavy, and it's four external perimeters at 0.4 millimeter. I will openly admit, totally my fault. I forgot to change the settings before I pressed print. But the thing that saved me is, again, bed adhesion. So I mean, if you can see the bottom layer, it's like perfect. And it all, that's what kept that up. So I mean, that prints at that angle, which is obviously a ridiculous overhang. And with that kind of weight, it struggles to stick to the bed. But as long as you get your bed sorted correctly and the leveling correctly, you can print stuff like this. I kind of stress it enough. There's a running joke in the forum. Everyone asks for a problem. The first answer is level the bed. It makes so much of a difference to your prints.
There you go. And so when you mentioned the support, do you usually just let the Crook to add those support automatically, or you add those like manually?
So this actually comes down to what you're printing. Whatever you're printing will determine your support. So if you're printing something very detailed and fine, something like a model, you would want to use something like tree supports. Tree supports are fantastic. If you're printing something where, for example, it's a character where the arms are down like that, and they'll be printing effectively in thin air. Then you would want to use tower supports, because that will give you that tiny contact patch so you don't have messed up fingers and hands and really fine detail. And then if you're printing something more engineering style, then you can either use the generic supports, or in Cura, there's a fantastic add-on called custom supports, which allows you to put your own in.
Yes.
But yeah, you don't. There is no one all answer for supports. It depends on what type of model you're printing.
Gotcha. I mean, do you just talking about yourself? Do you usually just let a system do the job, or
no? So I use two main add-ons in Cura. So I use print orientation add-on, which will automatically calculate the best print orientation to use the most minimum amount of supports. And then once I've done that, I will move the camera, so I'm looking from under the bed, and everything that is highlighted in red on the model in Cura is over 45-degree overhang and requires supports. And then I will look at those areas. So if those areas are big and large and blocky, then I will just use standard supports. If those areas are in really awkward areas, I'll use custom supports. And if it's like tiny little areas, because it's a model and there's loads of detail like this, then I'll use tree supports or tower supports.
Right. I mean, one thing is, to me, it's kind of hard to balance. Like, if you really want to make sure the print is gonna success, you probably want to put more supports in. But I mean, the more supports you put in, it's gonna kind of delay the whole printing process, and you got even more prints you have to remove. So it's eventually may ruin the details of your print.
Exactly.
So what I have done, like my first print, if like this tall, but I mean wide is only this, I'm not pretty sure if it's right or wrong, probably you can tell me, but I will just lay it down. It depends on, say this one has a clock, so I probably lay this like face down. I print like this. I mean, it makes the model isn't that high, like tall anymore. But I mean, it's just got like so many small and short supports, like pretty much everywhere. I don't know if that's gonna help to fast the print process, makes it quicker, or is that really helping to make sure it's stable enough?
It depends. I mean, if I'm honest with you, for me, I'm probably not the best person to ask for this one, because I don't care about time. I know a lot of people who are so rushed to get prints done, but the problem is the faster the print, the poorer the quality. If a print's going to take 40 hours, it takes 40 hours. If a print's going to take 10 hours, it takes 10 hours. You know what I mean? And so speed doesn't bother me. I have to look at it in two sort of ways. First one is layer adhesion. If I'm going to be printing something that's an engineered part, you've got to make sure that the layer lines are not lying flat on where any form of strength is required, because otherwise you get layer separation. So that's a big factor for orientation. And then again, like you said, supports, not purely for the time, but purely because they ruin the print quality. So the least amount of support you can get away with is possible. But the best piece of advice I can give anyone is just practice. Like that there, for example, that there that's being printed is purely being printed just to see how far I can push the Ender 3 on overhangs. That has 90-degree overhangs. So that's all it's for. Play around with your printer. Go and get some of the torture tests off Thingiverse or My Mini Factory, and play around with it. That's what it's there for. Practice and practice and practice. And if something doesn't work, try changing the settings. If it gets worse, write it down. Okay, that didn't work. Now I'll try it the other way. If that gets better, then you know you're onto something. It is purely just practice. That's all it is.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, the reason I mentioned like the timing, the longs of the printing process, because to me that's just probably a dumb stuff. To me, like the longer it takes to print, it's bigger like possibility to fail, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, is it true, or it's?
Yeah, no, it's basic physics. Again, you're always going to increase the possibility to fail by increasing the print time, but this all goes back to printer maintenance. look after your printer. The engineering bits of kit at the end of the day, it's not going to sit there and fix itself. It's not going to sit there and clean itself. Replace your nozzles when they need replacing. Clean out the filament if you've got a jam. Remove the filament if it's going to be stored for a long period of time, because otherwise you'll get moisture leakage. Make sure the pulleys are the correct tightness, the belts are the correct tightness. It's just basic maintenance. If you do them, I mean, I have a thing now. Every Friday, I'll go and spend 15 minutes and I'll give me printer once over, and I've never had a print fail. Not because of the printer. I've never had a print like a jam or bind or anything like that, purely because I look after it. I haven't got a lot of money, so to replace that is not money I've got. And the biggest thing I can say to anyone is look after it, do your maintenance. Makes a big difference.
Exactly. Basically, don't treat it as a tool. Treat it as your friend.
Yeah. I like that.
There you go. So yeah, we got more comments.
More questions?
Yeah.
Question: which software would you suggest best to update the firmware?
Unfortunately, with that one, Mamadou, you only actually get two choices. The firmware, if you're going to use Marlin, is determined by them. So if you're using Marlin 1 of any version, it's recommended that you use the Arduino SDE. Apologies, I've not used it for quite a long time. And that's the official software. If you're using Marlin 2, then you would need to use Visual Studio or Visual Code, sorry.
There we go. Let's move to next.
And hello from Copenhagen. Are linear rails better than
Linear rails better than linear laws and variants?
and Chris.
In my personal opinion, no. Linear rails only really come an advantage in an engineering grade printer, where, I mean, you're talking well over £1,000. Again, if you look on YouTube, there's a lot of people who say, "Oh yeah, linear rails, best things," and then 6 months later they'll say, "I've taken the linear rails off because my print quality went down." Linear rails, especially if you buy a decent set of precision engineered pieces of kit, and the problem that you've got is they don't factor in any variances in, say, example, the substructure of the printer, like the X gantry. One of the benefits of the rollers is if there is, say, example, a slight dip in your bar or something's not perfectly even, the roller will take up, they will absorb that impact as it goes along. They give you a lot more, what's the word? Compensation. They compensate a lot more. So personally, I've tried linear rails and have gone back to rollers. I find the linear rails only really work on a precision grade engineered printer. So I'm not a fan of them. I prefer the rollers.
Great. And Steven, a great separate money from 3D printer owners.
Pretty much.
Yeah. S3D don't have tree supports.
I think they might actually be coming, Derek. I'm not 100% sure because, apologies, I'm very tight and I refuse to pay for simplified 3D, so I use Cura. But I do have friends who use simplified 3D, and I believe that they are coming soon.
Okay.
Yeah, never use that one either. Free is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all like free stuffs.
Time is the biggest community.
Yep, good advice.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks for here. I have to go now. Yeah, go, try. That's the biggest problem with a Bell printer. Print time can be huge once you start working with the infinite access. Picture A, the long print times. I have no idea.
So no, that's yeah. I mean, we don't really have that Bell printer out yet. But I mean, yeah. Speaking of the longest print time, what is your personal experience, Chris? What's the like longest print time you've ever had?
106 hours, I think.
106.
106
That's like,
hours, yeah.
That's like about
5 days, yeah.
is your printer ever like overheated? It still depends where you live, right? I mean, and which season is it? It's probably okay to be in the winter, but I mean, I don't know. Long printing time, is that gonna cause any like accuracy or precision issues to the
No, I
prints?
mean,
What do you think?
it's just making sure that your printer's looked after.
Yeah.
The main thing that most people will need to check before they start engaging on long print times is after about 4 or 5 hours, just touch your stepper motors and make sure that none of them are hot. If any of them are too hot to touch during a printing time, then you need to stop the print, unfortunately, and you'll need to adjust your VREF because you've got it set too high. As long as stuff like that's set, the printer's maintained, the belt tension's correct, all that type of stuff, you should be fine to go for long prints.
Very nice. I always wondered what's that belt tension. Is there a way to do the tension always the same and not by the eye?
Yes. So there's different ways of doing this. I mean, one of the most popular ways to do it is to actually tune your belt like a guitar string. So you can use something like an app on your phone or a guitar tuner, and you tighten the belt to the tune of drop G. That's usually about perfect tension. Or to be honest with you, the way I like to do it for me, because when you use an X extrusion axis, the problem is the belt sits in the groove, and if you try and twang it, it's not gonna work because it'll hit the extrusion. I like to basically get my belt to the point where if I push up, I can just make the belt touch the top of the metal. If it easily touches or it won't touch, then it's either too tight or too slack. But for me, I have at the point where when the bed or the X gantry is both in the middle, if I go and push on the belt, I can just make it touch the extrusion.
Great answer.
Yeah. My longest print time was 4 days. Yeah.
Nice.
Not long. My funniest fail was my kids started playing the bed, adjustment wheels, knobs. Oh, sounds bad.
Yeah, that's what I said. Longer the printing time is, there's a huge change. It's gonna fail. So that's why I'm willing to if I ever get a chance to print parts separately, I'm gonna do it. One is that's pretty much decrease the printing time, and also I like to paint my prints afterwards. So if it's already came out like separated, it's much easier to paint it with different colors. It's really hard to paint with only one piece, just personal thought. So, oh my God, we got 11 already. That's
Wow.
Sam. Sam, how you doing? 11 days.
Sam, yeah. Oh, Kristian.
Hey. Yeah.
What,
But
what do you printing?
at the back,
Yeah.
what are you printing over there?
It's a parametric design that I found on Thingiverse, but we've nicknamed it the brain melt, and it uses really extreme overhangs. It's basically a bit like a torture test. If your printer can print this, it can print anything.
So that one has no support either.
No support.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, some of those prints some of those lines are only as thick as a toothpick.
Super cool.
All right, so I think next step, we already taught a lot of stuff about like the tricks about the printing itself. I mean, I heard about you do have experience of the 3D modeling as well. So do you have anything interesting you want to share with us about that? Because not everybody has those 3D modeling skills. So is there anything?
Yeah. So again, if it's something that you want to get into, I'd really recommend Fusion 360. Fusion 360 is actually a free software as well. You can sign up for it under an education license or just a personal license and get it free for a minimum of 1 to 3 years. One of the best things as well is it's made by a company called Autodesk, and Autodesk give you free tutorials on their YouTube channel. It's a very intuitive software, very easy to use. Unlike all the CAD softwares, this is very quick the learning curve is very quick. You can, in under an hour, you can go from not understanding the software to be able to design a basic model. And then if you're into the more artistic stuff, again, look at something called Blender. So Blender is used quite commonly by the film industry for special effects, but obviously it supports 3D modeling. And there's thousands of videos. It's free software as well. There's no charge, but there's thousands of videos online that'll help you teach it. And again, it's quite an intuitive software. You can learn it at a very quick rate. So those are probably your best two places to start, because they're both free, and there's advanced tutorials online where you can go from knowing nothing to knowing everything very quickly.
And this is, which is, it's a great package. I find it very easy to use.
Yeah.
And I want to learn, but I don't have spare months to learn it.
Well, you can, believe it or not, there's a guy, I can't remember his name. When I find it, I'll post it in the Facebook group, but he's sponsored by Autodesk. So Autodesk publish his YouTube videos, but he has a series which is Learn Fusion 360 in 8 hours. There's 8 1-hour tutorials, and that will teach you everything about Fusion 360.
Wow. Thank you so much for the detailed answer, guys. What are your best suggestions for fire prevention, fire safety? I'm often doing prints that can be always there. So many times the print was unattended. Yeah, that's the most common questions.
Yeah. So that one there, I'm quite paranoid. So first of all, never leave a printer alone. You can leave it unattended in a different room, but never leave the house. It doesn't make a difference how safe a printer is. There's always that small possibility you could start a fire. And you've got combustible filaments at the top of it. It's not the best idea. So in the sense of fire safety, you can get fire balloons. So they are a little balloon that you would hang on the wall, and if there's a fire, they explode with a dust.
That's kind of like a pretty
horrible.
Oh no, it's
way
good.
to stop the fire.
It's like a dust. They basically pop, and this dust comes down and they put the fire out instantly. Right. And in the sense of safety, the main two things that you want to do is if you're going to use high temperatures on your heater bed, make sure your printer has a MOSFET. If it doesn't, they're like £6 from Amazon. They're not expensive, and they're very easy to fit. Second, as I mentioned before, make sure your VREF is set correctly. So if you're sort of 1-2 hours into a print, go and touch your motors. If your motors are too hot for you to comfortably touch, you need to stop printing straight away and adjust those VREFs. And probably the most important one is always make sure that the screws that hold your nozzle in are tight. If you generally look at nearly all of printer fires, they come down to two things. The board is short-circuited because they haven't used a MOSFET for high temperatures, or B, the nozzles actually fell out and landed in the print, and then it's just carried on heating up until it sets on fire. And also as well, always make sure that you've got thermal runaway enabled in the firmware. So obviously correct me if I'm wrong, Jason and Tina, but I believe nearly all of the Creality printers now on the latest updates have thermal runaway protection enabled. But even if you've got an older one, it's a 10-second job to do in the firmware. You can do it straight away. It's really easy.
Yeah, either get started from the software side or the hardware side. I mean, my personal advice, probably you got to be careful with which, like the battery of the battery pack. It's usually, if it's caught fire, it's 90% of the time it's the battery. So I mean, if you're using some other brand's printer, just make sure you check which battery is using. Make sure the battery has pretty good quality, and also I mean, if you could get a like smoke detector, heat detector, that's gonna help. And also we do have our own. I think I actually did a live stream about the printer closure. Is that
enclosure?
She called it? Yeah. Enclosure. So it's like a cover. It has the fireproof function as well. So yeah.
Don't forget
Tinkercad.
Tinkercad.
Yeah, Tinkercad is a software that's obviously it's generally used in the 3D printing world for editing models. So Tinkercad's really good, for example, if you've got a very large model and you want to split it into parts, Tinkercad's really good for that. And also as well, if you've got a printer which has, a print file that has errors because it's not meshed correctly, Tinkercad has the ability to fix that mesh a lot better than what Cura can.
That would be something I want to learn to use, how to use it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So,
I think that we use one of these fire balloons.
Baby rut.
Oh, what's the meaning? I don't get it. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh. I can use with
Persimmon Galaxy Black PLA. I always get a nozzle.
With other payments, no issues printing now 16 months. So you mean contain the filament?
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're having problems with a specific brand of filament, the first two things that you want to check is always filament diameter. So one tool that every 3D printer should own is a digital caliper. So you want to take a piece of filament about that long and test it every 5 centimeters, and it should be no more than about 0.05 millimeters off. If it's more than that, unfortunately your filament's trash, and you need to speak to whoever you bought it from to get it replaced. If the filament diameter is the same, one of the most common problems that people have is people switch to all metal hot ends and then don't change the retractions. The problem with all metal hot ends is if you have large retraction distances, you pull the filament that is still hot into the metal throat because you no longer have that PTFE tube, it's now metal, and that hot filament cools and then sticks to the inside of the throat. So if you're using an all metal hot end, you need to adjust the retraction. Most all metal hot ends have a maximum retraction distance of around about 1.5 to 2.5 millimeters.
Great. That actually that's good advice. Some people usually just probably forgot about some failure is actually caused by the filament. So that's good.
Yeah. And actually, yes, Dimitri's right. Sorry, I've got the software the wrong way around. It is Mesh Mixer.
And what's the software you can suggest for model slicing? So,
I mean, I personally, I only use Cura. Cura is the only software that I use. I've tried a lot of them, and I've found it always produces better prints. So if a model's too big, I will generally split it with Mesh Mixer, add a couple of bungs so that there's little prints for it to make sure it meshes up correctly, and then print them as separate parts.
yeah, thank you. Great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, all metal hot ends. Here says the glitter close cloth nozzle has nozzle size from 4 to 6.
Yeah. Generally speaking, if you're going to print with glitter filaments, they have a tendency to increase clog, so it's better to use a slightly larger nozzle, 0.5, 0.6, stuff like that.
2 minutes left.
Minute half left. See if we have any more questions.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're gonna do a little bit ending here.
Happy ending.
Happy ending. Yeah, I guess we all learned a lot today.
We really learned a lot. Any questions? Any thanks to our Kristian?
Yeah, let's all say thank you
Leave
to
the
Chris.
comments. There may be some time delay. Okay, we will wait 30 minutes.
30 seconds.
Oh, sorry, 30 seconds. 30 minutes.
Okay, there we go. We got it.
I don't
do you have a YouTube channel?
I don't, David, but I am contemplating setting one up, mate. So maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah, and you can join our official user group.
Yes, that's a good one. If you've got, I definitely recommend joining the user group, David. It's some good stuff in there.
Save with Mesh Mixer and then open the new cut file with Cura. Great. Oh, the last question.
Mesh mix is by far the best. So I quite often have a lot of models which have aren't watertight, and I found mesh mix is by far to be the best. Again, there's a couple of YouTube things if you want to learn mesh mixer, but it's pretty much drop, click, and click repair, and it does it for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah, so that's probably about it today.
Yeah.
I do have even more questions coming up. Unfortunately, the time is up. So let's answer the last one.
wow, it's very informative.
Informative.
Yeah, thank you all. Probably going
Thank
to
you.
review the play again. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I do see there's more comments coming in. If you guys do interested, make sure either like you probably can directly send a message to Chris or just join our user group.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure most of the questions gonna be answered over there, and there's lots of great helps like Chris over there as well. And personally, I wish to see. I can't really wait to see more great prints from Chris. So yeah, let's hope you do post more. And share of your amazing prints with us.
Yeah. Oh, where are you?
I don't know if it's
It's
just his connection just cut out or so.
Yeah, so thank you
Anyway,
all.
that's everything for today, guys. And yeah, wish you all have a great day.
Bye. Have a nice day, everyone.